My guest today is Sam Morris. He's someone who has moved from 20 years in the corporate world to now being a motivational speaker and business coach, helping employees be the best that they can be. But one of the things that I'm interested to talk to him about today is his alter ego, this ultra endurance athlete. Sam, thank you for joining me today. I've done a quick introduction there, but talk me through that. Ultra endurance races, rows, how did that all start for you from being in the corporate world?
Hi, Philip. Thanks for having me today. It really started in 2015, my endurance journey, but just before then, I was always quite active as a kid. Did a lot of team sport, football, hockey, rugby, skiing, tennis, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously living in Dubai for a few years, by the time it got to 2015, I felt like I needed a lifestyle change. So I decided to sign up for the Marathon Des Sable, which is the world's toughest foot race, they call it. It's about 250 Ks across the Sahara Desert. So I approached a chap here called Lee Harris, who runs LK Running, and I said to Lee, "Hi, I've signed up for the MDS. Could you train me?" And he said to me, "Sure. What's your running sort of background?" And I said, "Well, I've never run a marathon before. I've done a few short races, but I'm more of a team sport guy." And he said, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Look, I assume you're doing it in 2 years' time." And I said, "No, I've signed up for the one in 9 months." So he muttered something which I won't repeat. We had a chat, and then he agreed to train me as long as I followed his plan. So I then got stuck in, and I went from zero to ultra marathon runner in 9 months. The point here is that once you commit, you need to sign up, you need to commit, and then you need to sort of dedicate your life to it. And I've actually just been listening to a couple of podcasts about this recently, and they were talking about how people who then want to change their life and sort of better themselves, a lot of their sort of existing friends base, they won't understand the change, because suddenly you're evolving from one person who you used to be, let's say Sam, the sort of fun party boy, drinking, smoking, etc., transitioning into an ultra endurance runner. A lot of people just didn't understand that transition, but I think the key takeaway from that is to find people who love and support you and will help you grow as a person. So that's really how I sort of moved from Sam, team sports, workaholic, party boy into ultra endurance sport back in 2015.
Nice. So help me understand that training program. You got effectively a coach. What did that then change in terms of the way that you approached corporate? I'm guessing that there were set schedules of when to run, how long to run for, type of running, whether it's distance or whether it's focusing on speed, or I guess there are different elements to that. How did you navigate that in terms of managing your time, your corporate commitments, and I guess building towards that point of doing the race?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, like, having a coach, I think, is probably one of the most important aspects, be it for ultra endurance sport, any team sport, or in life in general. So having Coach Lee in my life was amazing. He literally told me to to get up, when to sleep, what to eat, how to structure my days. And I went from something zero to doing this in 9 months. So the other thing with the coach is it takes out the thought process. So every day I'd wake up and look at the plan and go, okay, I know today I've got to run 10 kilometers. Tomorrow I've got an interval session. The day afterwards I've got some speed work. On the weekend I've got 2 long runs back to back. And having that plan in advance meant that I could then plan my week around that, plan my work around that as well. But it also makes you accountable. And I think accountability is a very, very big thing that is lacking. So a lot of people say they want to go off and do these great sort of amazing endurance things, but they don't have anyone making them accountable. So again, going back to that, find someone who's going to support you, someone who's going to guide you, and set your plan is highly important.
And so how did you deal with setbacks? I'm guessing there were some in that sort of 9-month period. For me, I've been a sprint runner in the past playing rugby, and so for long distance running for me, I get the aches and the pains in my ankles and my knees and all that sort of stuff. It's like, so were there setbacks, and how did you deal with those during that 9-month period?
There's a sentence here which is that once you find a good physio, hold on to them. So in terms of setbacks, there are a number of things, but a few niggly injuries here and there. And actually about 4 weeks away from the Marathon Des Sable, maybe 3 weeks away, I got a very bad ankle sprain. I thought it was broken. Went to go and get it x-rayed, it wasn't. And I was using the team at Disc, who are probably, I've been to most physios in Dubai, and I would say the team at Disc Physios in Dubai are probably around the best here, Dr. Tamara and her team. And I remember going in there and saying to Dr. T, look, I've got this ankle sprain and I've been training for 9 months for the NDS. Can you fix me? So I had Tamara, Nameen, and Lizzie working with me all at the same time. And I was like, please don't cry in front of a girl. Do not cry in front of a girl. And, you know, I had needles in my ankle. I had a niggle on my shoulder. There was all sorts of things going on. So, yeah, you just have to manage them as much as you can. Keep a positive mental attitude. Make sure you've got a good team around you supporting you and do everything you can. And I think a lot of it is mindset anyway. So I think the body will overcome and adapt, which I'll talk about later on when we get to the road. But very much physically, your body adapts, but mentally is where you need to toughen up and just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Amazing. And actually that leads nicely onto the row. So you've done ultra endurance in terms of running, but then you took on the challenge of rowing the Atlantic with a couple of teammates. Talk me through that experience.
Well, it's all good endurance stories started. We were dancing on a table in an après ski bar somewhere in the Alps, and I had already mentioned it to my teammate Will a few times that I wanted to row across the Atlantic, and I knew he was keen. So there and then he committed when I asked him. And then our friend Toby arrived, who was ex-army, and I thought, with me being the sort of macro guy and bringing it all together, Will is like an absolute machine. So I knew he'd be great on the oars. And Toby, being ex-army, great with admin and organisation. So I thought the three of us were going to be a great team. So I then asked Toby after a few beers, and Toby instantly said yes. And I said, "Are you sure? You know, this is putting our lives at risk." And he said, "No, that's an army yes." And I always remember that. He put his hand like this and said, "That's an army yes." So there our team was formed. This was back in when was this? Just before COVID started. When all the ski resorts were shutting, we flew in. So we were super spreaders, COVID super spreaders. But anyway, we agreed to do the row. We then spent almost 2 years on planning and logistics. So to get to the start line, doesn't just involve buying a rowing boat and turning up. Obviously, there's the physical and the mental training. There's also things like raising sponsorship. So it's like having another full-time job. It cost about £140,000 to row across the Atlantic. So that's the boat and all the kit and equipment and shipping costs and all that kind of stuff. Race entry fee. The team at the World's Toughest Row, which was formerly known as the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. They're from Atlantic Campaigns as the company. They're absolutely amazing. Carsten, Nikki and the team, and Ian, they're really good as well. So should anyone who's listening to this want to go and row across an ocean, speak to the team at Atlantic Campaigns, and they'll give you all the advice. But yeah, then you've got to go out and do things like, you know, events to raise funds. We chose 2 amazing charities. So we did it obviously for personal reasons, but we also decided to raise awareness about plastics in the oceans. We chose Ocean Generation, which is a UK-based but sort of global marine conservation charity. And here we chose Azraq, which is the Arabic word for blue, but it's the first marine conservation charity in the Middle East, focusing purely on sort of, you know, ocean and beach cleanups and stuff like this. But we chose these 2 charities because they have a 3-pronged approach. One of them is education, so they go into schools, companies, etc., and they educate people about plastics in the oceans. They also do cleanups as well, and then thirdly, they actually try and get governments to try and change legislation, because I think it's really important that it has to come from the top down as well, to try and get people to change their habits. So yeah, I formed Team Peninsula. That was the name of our rowing team. We had the 2-year lead-in period. We had to do various things. We had to do lots of courses and work out about kit and training, etc. And then after 2 years, we got to the start line, and we had a 38-day crossing.
It's amazing to 2 years of preparation for that sort of 38 days of action. But it's not just action for the sake of action. It's a case of you're also putting yourself in a position where you're isolated, because it was just you and your 2 teammates. So we've touched on the mental side of the preparation for the ultra endurance sort of marathon side of things. Talk me through that mental side for being in a position in the middle of the Atlantic with only your two teammates for company, and maybe a dolphin here and there?
Yeah, I'll probably start with a quote from I've got it on my phone here. A chap named Billy Yang from the Y documentary. So Billy Yang is an ultra marathon runner, and he has a great documentary called The Y. And he says the human body is designed to move, to hunt, to flee, to be pushed and tested. But somewhere along the way, comfort became the key to happiness. Buy a big fancy home, a luxury car with heated seats, and yet these material things never seem to make us happy. And in the process, we've softened both mentally and physically. Where do we lose our way? Is there something in our DNA that finds comfort through discomfort? So to put that in context, when you're on a tiny little 8-meter rowing boat, you actually find comfort through discomfort. You're there, and all you have to focus on is rowing, eating, recovery, and sleeping. That's it. And life becomes so simple. You don't have any distractions from any outside sources. Once a day, we'd have a little satellite dish, and we'd have our WhatsApps drop in and be able to send a couple of WhatsApps. And we also had a satellite phone as well. So, let's say on Christmas Day, we all sort of, called our family and stuff like this. But the isolation, the mental factor was very much the toughest thing. Our bodies obviously ached. We had the aches and pains. We had claw hands. Our hands lock. So after a couple of weeks, you have to wake up another 10 minutes early before each shift just to get your hands moving because they would lock like this. So you spend sort of 10 minutes in your cabin just getting your fingers moving so you could actually grip the oars. So your body overcomes and it adapts. Mentally though, we had to toughen up to get to the start line as well. With the mental prep, we actually had to go through a lot of mental training. The chief safety officer in Couch, he gave us a great example, and he said, look, all of your emotions are going to be heightened by 1,000 out on the Atlantic when you're tired, you're sleep deprived, you've got a calorie deficit, and all of your emotions are going to be heightened. And the example he gave were two guys who were friends when they were about 4 or 5 years old, and they were rowing across the Atlantic in their 40s. They got halfway across, and one guy said to the other, I can't take it anymore. And the other guy said, what's that? And he said, look, I just can't take it anymore. I've got to tell you something. And his friend said, look, we're in the middle of the Atlantic. You can tell me anything. And he said, I've been sleeping with your wife for the last 6 months. So this was the example of like how extreme things become in the middle of the Atlantic, and all your emotions come out. And so the point Ian was making was that as a team, when you're leading up to the row, make sure you lay all your cards on the table. So we went through a process of ultimately marriage counselling between the three of us, where we would talk about our hopes, dreams, values, etc., any issues we had with ourselves and with each other, but we did it in a positive way. So we would sit there, and rather than say, Will, you annoyed me doing this, Toby, you annoy me doing this, because that's a very negative way to highlight things that would probably grate you when you're right in the middle of the Atlantic. We instead did it in a positive way. We'd say, I, Sam, know that I could annoy you by doing X. And then it'd be Will's turn, then it'd be Toby's turn. We would go around in a circle for maybe an hour until he ran out of things to say. And that way, generally, we covered everything we had a self-identified that might annoy the other people on the boat. And then after an hour, they then had a chance to respond and say, thank you, Sam, for highlighting that you snore when you sleep. How would you like to mitigate that? Oh, give me a nudge if that happened. So again, we did it in a very positive way. And by the time we got to the start of the row after 2 years, I think we had expressed everything that might irritate the others like about ourselves, but in a very, very, very positive and healthy way. So that's the way we dealt with the mental side. Obviously on the boat, everyone had a moment, as you do, but we all knew it was a stress-induced, sleep-deprived sort of outburst people had, and then it goes away. And we had a thing which was leave your shit attitude in your cabin. That was the other thing. As soon as you're on the deck, positive attitude, you're there to work, get on the oars, get it done, focus on the end goal, and visualize the finish, and it will all be over soon. That was it.
I think that's a nice bridge to talk about entrepreneurship as well, because you've mentioned you're now a motivational speaker going into businesses and corporates and things like that. Entrepreneurship for me oftentimes is also a mental game. There are the struggles that you go through and the low points, and it may be not having enough clients, or the finances, or any of those sorts of things. What would you say to someone who is looking at starting that entrepreneurial journey. You know, they want to break free of the 9 to 5 and, you know, try and build something for themselves, whether it is a personal goal or to support their family. From your experience there of going through some of those mental hardships of the row, what advice would you give them?
Going back full circle to the start of the conversation is find an amazing coach and a mentor. I mean, it's taken me more than 2 decades to step out of the corporate world. You know, I went all the way through from a graduate surveyor all the way up to the C-suite, and I was never truly happy sitting in an office job. Whilst I was good at what I did, I always felt there was something missing, something lacking in my life. I found a great performance coach who basically guided me to where I am today, where I felt confident enough to take the leap of faith and step out of the corporate world and now go and follow my passions. So yeah, that's the advice I would give, would be don't do it on your own. There are people there who can guide and support you. Find the help, get out there and actually start taking steps. And you don't need to take a big step at the start. I've been doing little steps over the last few years. But, you know, public speaking, etc., building up my sort of endurance profile as well. And I finally reached a stage where I felt confident enough to be able to do this. So here I am starting the next chapter.
Fantastic. And so talk me through that motivational speaking and, you know, helping employees be the best they could be. What does that look like for you? What is it? You know, you've made that transition and you've just made the comments of taking the small steps and now getting to a point of feeling confident of being able to make that as a permanent transition. So as you go into corporates now, what is it that you end up helping those employees with?
So I'm in a very unique position that a lot of motivational speakers will come in to companies and give advice based out of textbooks. I've spent more than 2 decades going from a graduate surveyor in London, working all the way through up to the C-suite. And also I've had a number of personal investments and non-exec director roles recently. So I've got that full broad range, more than 2 decades of corporate experience. Simultaneously, I've done a number of the world's toughest endurance challenges as well. So I'm merging those two, and I've seen the huge benefits to myself personally and to the companies I work for from me going off and doing these ultra endurance challenges. And when I started these in 2015, that's when my career actually sort of exponentially went up on an upward trajectory, and I sort of reached all the way up to the C-suite. So what I'm going to be taking to companies now is going into companies and ultimately saying to them, look, you can better your employees, help with staff retention, which is a big thing for the millennials and the Gen Zs in particular, who are now looking for more from their companies. They're looking to achieve or also join companies who are not just there saying, okay, work 12, 14 hours a day, take home your salary and go home and we don't care about you. Now, these youngsters are coming into companies and saying, does this company align with my sort of global ethics? Does it align with my morals and values? And if the company doesn't, the employees are leaving. So where I'm coming in, I'm going to be coming in and saying, okay, I've got the corporate experience, I've got the endurance experience, let's merge the two together, let's give a motivational talk. I'm teaming up with a psychologist, Dr. Tessa, and we're going to be working together and trying to get employees to think outside of the box, try to get them to set goals beyond their limiting beliefs, and then we're going to get them to hopefully then do things outside of the corporate sphere and then bring their skills back in, which will then improve themselves as individuals, team leadership, communication, planning, all that kind of stuff. And then that's hopefully then going to increase productivity for those companies that they work for.
Nice. So I guess that could be going and supporting a community project, setting up a business, you know, on the side to develop some of those skills that they may not be involved with in the day-to-day. That's what it sounds like to me. Is that right? Yeah,
it could be anything. I mean, preferably it's going to be more sort of sports and endurance focused. I've also teamed up with Summit Expeditions as well, who are our expedition partners. So we're going to be guiding teams and corporates up to the summit of Kilimanjaro, to Everest Base Camp, that kind of stuff as well. Because the skills you learn from doing these expeditions and getting out of your comfort zone just have huge benefits for these companies.
Yeah, I can imagine. Say putting yourself almost on the brink, and I guess you echo the thoughts of it seems to me, I've obviously not done any of these, endurance races, but finding yourself and proving to yourself what you're capable of to be able to then take that back into the corporate environment or the family environment.
Yeah. So for example, I've just been to Everest Base Camp a few weeks ago with Summit Expeditions. There's a big group. There were 19 of us on the trek. There are a number of people there. It was their first time. A few people there had done other high altitude treks before as well. Towards the end, people were tired and the altitude was getting to them, and there were frustrations and there were some issues getting off the mountain and bits and bobs. And some people were massively out of their comfort zone. But what they're going to take back from an expedition like that is that not sweat the small stuff. In a crisis, stay calm, take a step back, things will be okay. Solutions, not problems. That's ultimately it. And that's one of the biggest things that you take away from doing these ultra endurance expeditions, I would say, is how to take sort of stay calm, plan, and find ways out of things, and how to get to the end goal in the most efficient way.
Okay, so we've touched on sort of the mental side and the personal growth that you can get through these activities. I'm interested to understand your perspective on fear. Now, you can say that that's mental, and that's what I position it in my model, but some of the situations that you go through, how do you combat that? And how do you necessarily recognize that the fear is not real? Because obviously sometimes it can be debilitating. It can stop you from taking the action that you need to take. So have you experienced that in any of the races that you've done?
Yes. So I always say fear is a tool to be used. Use that fear, control your breathing, control your mind, slow everything down. And this all comes with experience. So when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I spent 3 years in the Royal Marine Cadets, for example. And when you're doing your training exercises and you're bullets flying over your head and this and that happening, when that first exercise, when you're out there, you're shit scared. You're thinking, oh my God. And obviously over time, things sort of slow down, they calm down, and you get used to it. Now, in an ultra endurance run, you go through massive highs and massive lows as well. And sometimes you might have a niggle that like your ankle might start hurting, and you're 50 kilometers into an 80k run. So you've got 30k to go. How do you overcome that fear? Oh my God, I'm not going to finish. Or in the Atlantic, I had 3 days in the middle of 40, 50 foot waves. We got the tail end of a storm coming down from the north. So at night time during that, we had sort of walls of darkness coming towards us, and our rudder had disengaged. So our boat, what you want is your boat to be pointing into the waves, so you're riding up and down, facing forward. We were side on, we were beam on, which is when the chance of the boat, that heightens the chance of the boat capsizing and rolling. So again, we had to harness that fear, park it in the back of our mind, and use that adrenaline to our advantage. So we were on the deck. We knew we had an issue. We had to get the boat facing the right way again without capsizing, and try to work out what was going on. So again, that came from training and SOPs as well. So your standard operating procedures. So make sure that anything that you're going to do, you've done 100 times before as well, just so it becomes autopilot.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So I guess it's the first time you need to accept that it's going to feel horrible, but the more you do something, the more you gain a level of comfort with it until you can then master it and say, you know what, I've done this a million times before. It's actually nothing to worry about now. So I guess it's helping people understand that is a process and a journey that you'll go on. And if you keep doing it often enough, you'll get to a point where, I guess, public speaking is the same. You do it the first time and it's horrible and you feel really awkward about it. But the more you do it, you build up a style, a way of interacting with the audience, the tells to look for in terms of engagement from the audience, all those sorts of things. So I guess it is about that repetition.
Yeah, back in, I guess it was 2010 or 11, the RICS here asked me to do a talk that people were coming to, that they paid to attend. And it was all of the RICS charter surveyors, it was the real estate bankers and various other sort of real estate investors, etc. Maybe 150 people in the room. And I was running the whole show. It was a 6-hour talk I was giving over a day. And I got up on the stage, the first 5 minutes, I absolutely stuttered for about 5 minutes. I just couldn't get my words out. I still have moments every now and then where I suddenly get a flashback to that first ever big public speaking engagement. And again, I just know I've just got to slow down, visualize the words in front of me, and then they just come out. Yeah.
I see. Do you rehearse anything? Do you prep, or is it all based on, okay, I'm going to go off the cuff, but I'm talking about my experience, my perspectives, and that's actually what then helps you through?
A bit of both, really. I would say 60, 70% is obviously looking at the slides, knowing the slides inside out. Obviously that's learned and rehearsed. But then there's obviously all the life experience that has to come out as well that you want to get across. So you can't get everything onto a slide. And again, you need to sort of be reactive to the audience, their ticks, tells, and their questions. So you need to be able to then sort of engage with them on a human and a personal level as well, and try to get across all of your experience. So again, 70% rehearsed, 30% off the cuff. Yeah.
Nice. And so is that now you set for the long term? You want to continue doing that? You're going to continue doing the ultra endurance stuff on the sides? Is there anything else that you have a vision for that you want to try and do or achieve?
Really, I'm on a personal level. There are still a number of ultra marathons and maybe one other ocean to row across. I'm toying with the idea of a 2025 row from Monterey to Hawaii in the Pacific. So it's basically half the Pacific, but it's the same distance as the Atlantic row. I'm toying with that and a few other bits and bobs I want to do. But yeah, on a sort of new venture angle, yeah, I'm very keen to help and inspire and motivate other people and other companies to try and get the best out of people, because I think there are thousands, if not millions, of people sitting at their desks every day thinking, what the hell am I doing here? There's more to life than this, and people just shouldn't go and quit their jobs. I think people need to look at things externally and build up sort of additional life skills and bring those back into their sort of employment, and then they'll become sort of happier and better employees, more productive employees. So that's the angle I'm sort of now going for. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess a slight difference there. For me, it's freedom and potentially breaking free of the 9 to 5 and being your own boss, which you now are. But your angle is actually, if you can develop the skills, you can potentially progress more within a corporate role, have the stability that provides, and maybe still a level of flexibility to go and experience other things.
Yeah, because I think people are sitting at their desks, not necessarily unhappy or hate what they do. So I never hated what I did. I was always very good at what I did, but I just felt there was something lacking. There was more to life. So if I can give people that stepping stone to explore things beyond their boundaries, their current boundaries, I think that's going to make them happier, more productive employees. So that's where I'm targeting.
Nice. Yeah, I think, again, we're all different. So, there'll be some people who listen to this and go, what, that is, I've seen and heard all of these coaches, and they're like, go and set up your own thing and actually know exactly what I need, because the type of person that I am is that support in doing something alongside the corporate. I'm quite happy to stay in corporate. That feels comfortable for me. So it's great to hear you say that.
Yeah, 100%. Some people are just sort of channeled into jobs that they shouldn't be doing, and they get stuck in the employment trap, the wife, kids, they've got to earn money to pay for their mortgage, etc., etc. Whereas then there's a whole group of people like me who weren't necessarily unhappy with what I was doing. I just felt there was something missing. So again, I think both of us are coming from like different sort of angles, but trying to get people to get the best out of themselves and feel happy within themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's it. We have one life. We have to do what feels right. Sometimes it is filling a gap. Sometimes it's making a complete change and going down a very different path.
Yeah.
Final thoughts then. What would you say to, based on your corporate experience and your ultra endurance, races and competitions and things like that, what would you say to someone who currently feels like they should be doing more, or that there's more for them? I know we just sort of touched on this briefly in terms of the conversation of staying in corporate or breaking out and setting up something completely different. Are there, I get 2 pieces of advice, 3 pieces of advice that you would give to someone in terms of a step or a thought processes that you suggest they go through?
Yeah, very much. First of all, it is have a positive mental attitude. That's the very first thing. Spin off from that is if you have anyone saying you can't do something, take that negativity and use it. So on the Marathon Des Sable, I actually had a friend of mine's wife who about 2 years before was so negative when I told her I was going to do it, and basically spent an entire lunch telling me how much of a waster I was and that I would never achieve this amazing goal that I set out to do. And during the Marathon Des Sable, I was running along saying, fuck you, whatever her name was, fuck you, I'm going to do this. And I use that negativity as positivity. Sorry, I'm not sure whether I should swear on this or not. Apologies for the anyone. So yeah. Things are positive mental attitude. Take negatives and turn them into a positive. And the third thing is just sign up. Literally, once you're signed up, you're committed, and then work it out. I think it was Richard Branson said, "Fake it till you make it," or like if somebody offers you a job that you don't think you can do, say yes, and then work out how to do it later. Same thing with a challenge, changing job or whatever it is. Just go for it, sign up, and then work out how to do it later.